For Session Update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. Governor Dayton released a statement outlining 117 objections with the Republican omnibus budget bill. Later, the governor and legislative leaders began end-of-session negotiations behind closed doors. After a brief meeting, they emerged separately and took questions from the press. Here's that media event.
Well, good afternoon. It was a brief meeting, but that doesn't mean it wasn't productive. We are working through some of the issues that we all agreed were something that we had to talk about. We have people working on those issues, and that's a good sign. One of the things that the governor brought up was the most recent school shooting with a shotgun, and that we need to do something about emergency funding for safe schools, and it is something that we are open to. We're trying to figure out whether it makes sense to do it today or just to do it 2 days from now. But either way, that always has been one of our highest priorities, safe schools, and making sure that the schools have resources to make their structures safer, providing money for mental health, which we thought was important for counseling and making sure that people never get to that place. But this just underlines again why we need to do that. But emergency funding for safe schools is our highest priority as well.
I would add, obviously, all of us disheartened to hear about the tragedy in another school, and the Minnesota House Republicans in particular have made school safety a huge priority for us this year. Our number of dollars dedicated to school safety is literally twice the amount that the governor proposed, because we want to make sure that we give schools all the resources that they need to make sure that kids are safe in those schools. So we're going to have those conversations over the next couple of days. We hope to send a bill to the governor's desk that can earn his signature and get those dollars out to our school districts. And with that, I think we'll take a couple questions.
That's a standalone bill on school safety?
You know, we haven't determined yet how that will happen. I think we're all open to that, so we're engaged. The governor has asked for us to send him a bill that way. If nothing else happens this session, I want to make sure that the school safety legislation gets signed into law. Now, don't read into what I just said to think that I believe nothing else is going to, but that's my way of saying this is our #1 priority, and it has been for some time. In the meetings for a week now, I've been saying I want to make sure that we get school safety language signed, and it is our top priority.
Did the governor ask for anything more than the school safety measures? I'm talking about, you know, some sort of background checks or something in that area.
No, it was send us a school safety bill, and like I said, we've been working on that. We will send it. If we can, we'll try to get it done today, but keep in mind there's only 2 days left, and so we'll have to figure that out. He did talk about how do we get through all of the other things that we need to get through, but there are people working on it, both House and Senate and the governor's staff, and so I feel comfortable that we're on a good path there. We're going to meet again at 6 o'clock tonight. Hopefully we'll have a lot more news by then.
117 objections by the governor. How do you get through that?
116 objections by the governor, but
That's what he just told us.
yeah, maybe he lost one. But,
That's less than usual, so we're doing good. It's great progress.
you know, the people that we have working on it, in an hour, they went through about 24 of them. So I think we're on a pace where we can actually do it. You know, we know that we're running out of time, and we're going to get there.
And you solved those 24, you mean?
I think they either solved them or were very close, or just had language that they had to modify. But talking to our side, they felt like they had a good working relationship with the people that the governor assigned to it, and that they were going to get through those. And so I'm comfortable that we will work through those problems.
Mr. Leader, I assume one of them is not signed is the governor's insistence on not eliminating funding from millage.
I don't want to make any comment about the issues at this point, but we're looking at every single issue that there's conflict.
Where do things stand on the school emergency funding issue? Are you still talking about that?
You know, we didn't talk about it in this meeting, but we are absolutely talking about it behind the scenes with the governor's administration, and also our chairs are doing some looking into different options. So we're analyzing the governor's plan. We're also looking into see if there are other options that might work better. But we want to make sure all of us are dedicated to making sure that our kids have the resources necessary to be successful in school. That's our top priority, and I'll remind folks that schools get more money under Republican legislatures than they do under Democrats. That's a fact. We are absolutely dedicated to making sure that our schools are well funded. But we want to make sure that those resources are used properly. In the governor's proposal, it's $130-some million, but it gives money to every school, not just the schools that have the emergency and need that emergency funding. So that's one of the concerns that our members have.
Do you have the option of singling out certain school districts, or don't you have to give it to?
We're the legislature. We have lots of options.
Senator, you said we're running out of time. Are there issues that are going to have to fall off, or can you still get everything you talked about at the beginning of this session?
So, we have to finish by midnight Sunday, and so there's a lot of things that we would like to get done, but we know in the end, if we don't have time, that things have to drop off, and that's just how it is. It's like making sausage. You just have to move it all together and figure it out at the end, but I think some things will drop off, but I'm not going to comment about what that is at this point.
So what will determine if you pass a standalone emergency school safety funding bill versus just kind of looping it into a bigger budget bill later in the weekend?
I missed the first part of what?
What will determine whether you do a standalone as soon as today versus?
So we both Kurt and I have to talk to our caucuses to make sure that we're all on board, but I will tell you that there is unanimous agreement that we need to do something for safe schools. It was our priority, and I hope that we can get it done today, but frankly, if it's done Sunday, that's 2 days from now, it still gets done.
I want to just add to that. Our priority is making sure that we give schools the money to keep the resources they need to keep kids safe in their schools. We've got robust proposals to do that. Whether they pass today or on Sunday won't get the money into the school district any sooner. We'll make sure that we do it the right way to get a signature by the governor and make sure that we get these resources into the hands of the school districts to keep our kids safe.
So will you be coming back at 6 and saying, here's how we propose to do it to the governor, the safe school stuff?
We're going to just continue conversations at 6. It's my understanding that Governor personally will not be here at 6 o'clock, but his members of his administration will be here to meet with us at 6 o'clock.
Mr. Speaker, are you getting any closer to the governor on the school, emergency school funding issue and hence the tax bill?
We're working on options. Obviously, the governor has been clear that he wants school funding in trade for a tax bill. I have been very vocal about saying that that's unfortunate, and I don't think we should be pitting low-income Minnesotans against school kids. I think that's a lose-lose scenario. I think we need to look for solutions that are win-win. How can we help everyone? And I think that's what members of our caucus are doing right now.
Are you coming up with some money, or does it look like you can come up with some amount of money, even be it targeted to certain schools?
We've got folks working on that. We want to make sure that our schools have the resources that they need to be successful and stand by.
Zelka, what's the status of the legacy bill in the Senate? I haven't seen it.
There is no legacy bill in the Senate. That's it.
Will there be one this session?
You'll have to contact Senator Kerry Root.
And what about the bonding bill, Mr. Leader?
We're still working on the bonding bill. Our hopes is that we have cooperation with the Democrats in the Senate. As you know, that they voted unanimously against the bonding bill, very similar to the House bill that was passed bipartisanly, and so we'll just have to figure that out.
I'll add too, it makes it difficult. I maybe can say this, Paul, easier than Paul can. When a caucus votes unanimously against those projects, that sends a pretty strong statement that they don't support those projects. So we have to look at things that we can put in a bill that will earn their support to get it to the governor's desk for a signature. And we have 2 days left to do that. My hope is that Democrats engage so that we can get these necessary resources out for that infrastructure.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Democrats.
Sorry, was there a follow-up?
Sure is. The leader of the Democrats has sent Senator Bach said it's not a matter that the projects in there are good. He says there just aren't enough of them in the sense of the dollar.
One thing that has always been concerning to me since in my time here, and I know that's short, it used to be that you voted for what was in a bill. If you supported it, you voted for it. If you supported it, you signed the bill. Now all of a sudden we're in an era with Democrats in St. Paul where we vote against bills because of things that aren't in them, and we veto them because of things that aren't in them. I'd ask you to refer to our Constitution to see if that's constitutional or not.
Mr. Speaker, real quick, the River Center parking ramp, they've shut it down 2 days before the session ends. Is there any chance of that?
Are you suspicious there's a conspiracy?
I'm just saying. Any chance that's going to get any money this session?
You know, the chairs of the bonding committees are looking at that. We understand that it is the #1 priority for the St. Paul, for the city of St. Paul. However, the lead on the bonding committee from the Democrats in the House has not been supporting that project. They've prioritized other projects. That's why our bill looked the way it did in the House. It came out without funding for the parking ramp. Ours did receive broad bipartisan support, so we have an official House position, bipartisan, that we aren't including that, but we'll see what the Senate can come up with.
Yeah, and then the Senate proposal that was did not pass had $5 million for demolition for the ramp. We believe that's the first step. No matter what happens, we have to take down that ramp, and so you know, whether it should be developed by a private developer after, that's the part I'm not sure. But we do have money in there, and hopefully in the end to do that, the demolition.
But do you plan on any additional money? Is it possible for any additional money to help fund the construction?
So we're going to work with the chairs to decide whether there should be more money there. But like I said, we did put $5 million. It's sort of like a placeholder. The rest we'll see. So with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first I wanted to express on behalf of all Minnesotans a deep sorrow and deepest condolences to the families of the victims of the terrible shooting in Houston, to all the students and faculty who are the friends and schoolmates who are suffering both physical wounds and deep emotional wounds they'll have to suffer through for the rest of their lives. It underscores the importance of school safety measures that I proposed that the legislature still, Republican leaders, Speaker and the Majority Leader still not agreed to send to me as a standalone bill, free and clear of all of the other differences we have on the omnibus budget bill. I sent them a letter urging them to do so today. This is too important an issue to play politics with. And the least we can do to commemorate the losses that yet another school has suffered is to pass this separately, send it to me. Let's get it underway so we can do everything we possibly can to see that this is not something that's going to happen here in Minnesota. You wanted to say something on behalf of the legislature?
Just as a parent, it breaks my heart that we have yet another school shooting in the country, and I would just echo the governor's comment that we can work together as Republicans and Democrats on the school safety proposals to get those to the governor's desk by themselves in a standalone bill. We could do that today. We should do that today. And you know, thoughts and prayers aren't enough, but we do have those for the families of those who were affected.
With regard to the rest of the meeting, as you know, it was brief. We agreed they would come back at 6 o'clock tonight. It may move the time up because of other legislative commitments, but it'll be sometime late this afternoon. They're going to reconnoiter and discuss some of the issues that are raised, including the school safety bill, the opioid, and the elder care, which I said have been watered down to a point that they're almost irrelevant. Once again, they've caved into the big pharmaceutical industry. There's no tax or any penny a pill or any financial obligation to the drug companies, none whatsoever. It's just, and I know that there are people, especially in the Senate, who have been pushing for that, advocating that, and there are people in the House Republican caucus who have. But they've obviously just gone into a stone wall, so they're going to put the money on, the burden on the taxpayers to pay for the cost of that, and they watered down the costs as well. So it's a minuscule effort. The elder care, they've taken away the licensing, they've taken away a lot of the requirements that the advocates representing seniors in this state were advocating along with myself to provide better protections. We get 400 calls a week still to the hotline complaining about various aspects of treatment in these nursing homes, assisted living homes, and they want to just let it go. It's really, I told them, I was appalled. I am appalled that they're just, and go back again to the $200 million in repatriated foreign profits that they want to let tax-free. even the president and the Republican Congress decided to tax this repatriated profits. These are profits, and they don't want to tax them. I mean, then they say there's not enough money for emergency school aid. It's just ludicrous, but it's also very serious and very real. So, we laid that on the line. We told them, in our 116 provisions that we've objected to in letters, 125 letters we've sent to them during the course of the session, outlining in detail the objections we have, that policy measures have no reason to be in a budget bill. And they just ignore, and they couldn't take money from existing agency appropriations for other purposes, and then they just ignored us 116 times. So, I don't know where we're going from there. I asked them that question, and they said, well, they wanted to discuss it and come back. We'll see what they come back. I will not be able to be there tonight because we have the annual Humphrey dinner, Humphrey Mondale dinner, but we'll have great people here to carry forward, including our two leaders. So. Huh?
Governor, are they coming your way at all on the emergency school funding issue?
No indication.
What do you have to have in the safe school legislation to accept?
Well, I think we're generally in accord. Grant money to the schools for them to use at their own discretion. I mean, different schools will have different needs, and I think those are decisions best made at the school board level. But enough money there to give them the wherewithal and not take it out of their existing per pupil aid so that they can do what they need to do.
So their bills are acceptable?
As a standalone measure, we can work out the details. There's some minor differences. And unfortunately, it doesn't include gun safety. It doesn't include universal background checks, which 90% of the people in Minnesota support. I mean, it's one thing to prevent, somebody coming into school, which is vitally important. Another thing to prevent them from getting their hands on a gun when they shouldn't have it. So I don't expect that there's going to be anything there, and that'll be a serious omission. But again, it's important we find what we can agree on. It's important that they pass that bill. It's important they send it to me as a clean standalone bill as soon as possible.
Other questions? Governor, do you believe there will be a revised tax bill coming your way?
Have to ask them. I honestly don't know.
Are you willing to leave without one, Governor? Leave the session without it?
Yeah, if there's no school aid, then there's no tax bill. I mean, I won't sign on it, veto it. I assume it won't be overridden.
Does it have to be your full 138 million, or are you willing to take less than that?
Well, this one I was saying I want the whole 138 million because it translates into 2% the per pupil aid formula, and you look at the amount of money it provides. It needs to be that much to provide make some meaningful difference for a number of these school districts that are even beyond those amounts they'll receive in deficits. So, yes, and again, with $200 million of repatriated foreign profits that they're letting go tax-free, and we have $321 million surplus, there's no way they can say there's not money available. They just aren't willing to give it the priority.
Would you agree to just target the 59 school districts that have deficits?
I've made my statement. I think I don't know if a school district, any school district that has so much money they don't need it, is welcome to send it back. I don't think you'll find anybody in Minnesota, any schools. You've got others that are on the brink. You've got others that have had to make cuts already. I mean, I stood there yesterday with these kids, second and third graders. I don't know if you caught it, but when they started out, I said, well, what grade are you in? And they said, second, we're in second grade. And then at the end, we were about to break up. The girl in the back raised her hand and said, we're all third graders back here. We're the big kids. I mean, their chances in life depend upon quality teachers and individual care and attention. And, to say that the foreign profits of multinational companies are more important than emergency school aid for every school district in the state, it's just inconceivable to me, but that's their position so far.
Governor, did I read your objection to the bill correctly that you want to see the protest language as well as the pipeline language both out of this bill?
Well, I guess, well, they sent me a protest bill, was it last night, the night before? To be honest, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. I got until, I believe tomorrow, end of tomorrow to look at it, and I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Governor, Senator.
What has the state done, BCA or anybody else, to help with school safety in recent weeks?
Well, that's a good question. I'd have to talk to Commissioner Doman, but there's probably things they can do, and you know, their expertise is coming in after something happens and determining the facts of the situation. This is about preventing tragedies from occurring. But it's a good question, and I'll follow up with Commissioner Doman and see what they could have in mind.
Senator Gazelka said that any tax bill that they send back to you would look more or less like the bill that you vetoed. If that comes with some additional school funding, would you sign that bill?
It depends on some additional. It's a bad bill for its own demerits. You know, it's $200 million tax-free to multinational corporations. They talk about how it's lowering everybody's taxes, and they are, but by tiny amounts, and the more higher your income, the more tax rate you get. Whereas my proposal was targeting the tax relief to middle-income working families. So it's, it's a whole different attitude. The people who already have get more. The people who need more get less, and that's why, unless there's an agreement to fully fund the emergency school aid, it'll be hard for me to think that there's a bill. And also the phasings. They're sacrificing the fiscal stability of the state by phasing in the second and third biennium some of these measures, and they're between that and possibly a constitutional amendment, and then freezing the property tax on businesses last year, and eliminating the funding for Minnesota Cares in the end of 2019. I mean, they are decimating the revenue sources for Minnesota for the future, and they're jeopardizing the fiscal stability of the state. And then they'll predict they'll get right back to what they did under Governor Plenty, which is borrow money from the schools and this and shift this and all this other. But they're also going to have to make some draconian cuts, and that's what I'm trying to forestall.
Governor, the majority leader said we're running out of time and things are already going to start to fall off. Are you concerned now that the agenda is getting smaller and smaller?
Well, they've been running out of time for a month, and they've been running out of time certainly for the last week. And if they can't get their work done in time, that is not my fault. That's their fault. We don't even have a complete budget bill yet. It insists on putting all the articles into one mega budget bill, and we still don't have the human services part of it complete. We don't have comprehensive targets to even look and see in context of a tax bill. If we got to that point, what there is to work with. We have a surplus. Depends on whether the tax bill is going to. They're putting money into the tax bill to provide tax giveaways to corporations. If they straighten that out, mine was revenue neutral, but there should be beyond that. Anyway, if they can't get their work done, and they have, it's only because of the Republican leadership's mismanagement of this session.
So if you can still get a global deal, would you bring them back, as you've done many times in the past, to just finish up their work?
You mean a special session?
Yes.
I've said absolutely, firmly, emphatically, I'll say it again, no special session. If they can't get their work done by the end of this term, they need to go back and explain to Minnesotans why they're qualified to run state government. They've had every opportunity. They have a majority in both the House and the Senate. How can they not get the work done in time? They can't even agree among themselves now, the two Republican caucuses on human services. They couldn't agree on much of the other measures. That's why it hasn't come to us yet. I mean, they can't work it out among themselves, and then they wonder why we can't work it out with them, for them. Not going to happen that way. And you're right, they're running out of time, and they got no one to blame but themselves.
Thank you. Do you have any concern about a bonding bill not getting done?
I heard it's going down. I mean, the money's going down. I thank the Senate and Senator Bach for his leadership and for saying this bill is so woefully inadequate. It's again, let's not pretend we're going to solve the problems facing the city. Look at the magnitude of the bonding needs just to prevent basic buildings from falling down. You know, you're talking about state office buildings, state parking lots, college, university campuses, state parks. I mean, they're all deteriorating, and they won't put money into it except for their specially earmarked projects that are part of their re-election schemes. It's just shameful. And we have the right capacity to do it. We have the need to do it. And I commend Senator Bach and the Senate caucus for saying 825 is not enough. And we're not going to pretend that it is. So where it's going to go from here, I don't know. Fortunately, in this case, they need DFL votes in both the House and Senate. And I know Minority Leader Portman is also doing everything she can with her caucus to take a stand. And we'll see what we can get out of it. We certainly need a bonding bill, but we'll have to see what comes of it. Okay?
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.